Today, the first ELT webinar actually focuses on the impact and relevance of global programs for sustainable development and education for sustainable development especially, and how these global programs actually also impact local institutions like higher education institutions at the local scale, but all over the world. So just a week ago, actually, in end of September 2015, the UN General Assembly has officially accepted the Agenda 2030, including the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, as a follow-up also of the Millennium Development Goals. And that have been, those Sustainable Development Goals have actually been developed through a very participative process, which started at the Rio+20 Summit in Rio de Janeiro 2012. And in 2014, in November, the UNESCO took balance of 10 years UN Decade on Education for Sustainable Development. This UN Decade ran from 2005 up to the end of 2014 and has launched in November in Aichi, Nagoya, the Global Action Program on Education for Sustainable Development. So those are two global partnership programs initiated by UN and UNESCO, so to support sustainable development in a society globally, as well as really focusing also on education for sustainable development and supporting education for sustainable development. So in this ELT webinar, actually, we'd now like to discuss the relevance and opportunities of those global programs, and especially for higher education institutions, as you are probably watching from. So the main questions will be, what is actually the role of higher education institutions in global ambitions towards sustainable development, as like those programs? What do specific goals of the SDGs and the Global Action Program mean for higher education institutions? And how can local experience and knowledge from science and practice actually find influence at a global scale? As live followers, you are also invited to bring in your questions through the ELT LinkedIn discussion group. To discuss those questions, actually, we have invited two, as said, very distinguished guests in the ELT webinar. And I'm very glad to welcome our two guests. On the one side, Dr. Alexander Leicht, Director of the ESD program, UNESCO in Paris. He has led the UN Decade on ESD to wide implementation of ESD international policies, as well as thousands of initiatives also globally that came up through this UN Global UN Decade on Education for Sustainable Development. Initiatives that have launched at local scale by NGOs and raised awareness for sustainability through formal and non-formal educational practices. Now, Dr. Leicht is actually also leading the process of implementation of the Global Action Program on ESD at UNESCO in Paris headquarters, and the main aim of mainstreaming ESD into policy and practice globally at UNESCO. On the other side, we have Professor Dr. Ibrahim Abuleish in Cairo, Egypt. He's the founder and president of the Heliopolis University for Sustainable Development, which is a university, a young university located in Cairo, Egypt. Since the 70s, actually, Professor Abuleish is promoting sustainability through growing business initiatives in the organic food, cotton, and pharmaceutical product development, closely connected all of those social initiatives like healthcare, education, culture, and art. For his ambitions, Professor Abuleish has also won the Alternative Nobel Prize and many other awards globally. So Heliopolis University is fully dedicated to enable students actually and researchers to build competencies and innovations for sustainable development.